Hi, my name is Adriana and today I will be doing my monthly reading wrap-up for July. As per usual, we will start with stats and graphs. I read a total of 8 books in the month of July. Total physical pages read with my eyeballs were 1,856. I listened to 33 hours of audiobook and my average book length was 371 pages. And then my average rating was a 3.63, which is not that great. Yikes. My format breakdown was 3 ebooks, 3 audiobooks, and 2 paperback. My ratings breakdown you can see here. I had 2 5 stars, 1 2 star, and then a 3 and a 4 in there. So that 2 stars really bringing down the whole group. In my genre breakdown, I have 3 historical fiction, 2 mystery thriller, 2 sci-fi, and 1 romance. And then as far as where I sourced these books, 5 of them came from the library, 2 of them came from the publisher, and 1 of them I already owned. So before we jump into the book by book breakdown, please consider commenting and liking this video and subscribing to my channel if you like bookish things. Starting with the first book of the month, I read The Antiquity Affair. This was a very fun historical fiction, archaeology, thriller, just good time. Good vibes all around. I read this as a NetGalley arc, so I do have it in a NetGalley vlog that I posted somewhat recently. I can't remember when. So I will have that linked down below if you want to check more in-depth thoughts. But I would definitely recommend it for anybody who loves a blockbuster action movie type book. This definitely fit the bill. Very Da Vinci Code. Very, I don't want to say The Mummy, but like kind of The Mummy, but like with 2 sisters in their late teens instead of Brendan Fraser. So very, very fun, really great sibling dynamics, really great father-daughter relationship exploration. So I would definitely recommend this. I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read as an audiobook, but I have a physical copy, and that is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I gave this 5 stars. There's like a lot of weird kind of stuff going on with this book, racially and like class, socioeconomic class wise, but like it's just so well written and so fun to just, especially as an audiobook, just to sit back and let this whirlwind of a story really take you in. I feel like I'm the last person on earth to read this book, but in case you don't know what it is a historical fiction about a fictional actress, Evelyn Hugo, who sits down with a reporter to give basically her memoir, her biography of her life, and going through her 7 marriages and basically her whole life as a golden age Hollywood starlet. So very, I don't know, just scratches that itch of like celebrity news nonsense. If you like watching, what is that, Entertainment Tonight? Whatever that was. I used to watch it with my mom when I was a little kid. So it's very much like that energy, peeking behind the curtain into the lives of these larger than life actors and actresses, but all fictional, so it's a little less voyeuristic, but like still a little voyeuristic. But I super duper enjoyed it. Like I said, there are some weird things going on. I would maybe check some reviewers of color and their opinions on this book, because there's just some weird things that get said in this book. I can't remember anything off the top of my head and I wasn't annotating as I went, but just be aware. But I had a really good time and I gave it 5 stars. The next book I read and also loved was Tides of Fire, the newest installment of the Sigma Force series. I will have a full vlog / review for this book next week because it comes out on August 15th. So I will be releasing my full review and everything next Monday, August 14th. I don't want to say too much because it is not out yet and I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but I loved this book. I think it's probably no surprise that I gave it 5 stars because I am obsessed with this series. Elevator pitch for the Sigma Force series. Scientists with guns. The Sigma Force is a special forces group associated with DARPA. It is their job to protect new and emerging technologies from falling into the wrong hands and keeping them in America's, hopefully the good guys' hands. So this book specifically, we have so much going on. There is deep sea exploration and cataclysmic eruptions. We're going everywhere, from the bottom to the top. Planes, trains, automobiles, / also boats and submarines. So this book has it all, and I loved it, and you will see my review next week. The next book I listened to was Scorched Grace. I listened to this for the Silly Goose book club hosted by Noelle 7 Pages. This is a mystery story about a nun who teaches at a Catholic school, and there is a large fire one night and a student, I think. Either a student or a staff member gets killed. Somebody gets killed in the fire, and the police aren't doing a very good job, so the nun, kind of puts herself into the equation. It's pretty fun. I think the most interesting part of the book is the main character, nun herself. She is queer, she's tattooed up, and after a big life event decides to join the convent and become a nun. So she has a lot of very interesting thoughts and feelings on religion and her life in general. I guess I kind of had some issues with the pacing of this book. I found myself bored a lot, which seems really strange for a mystery with a queer nun. It just seemed like I wasn't as engaged in the story as I should have been based on the synopsis, the premise, whatever. So I think I ended up giving this 3 stars? Yep, I gave this 3 stars. It just was kind of there, doing its thing. But I would suggest maybe reading the synopsis and see how much it intrigues you, but as far as me, it was kind of middle of the road. The next book I read was another NetGalley arc, except I didn't read it as a NetGalley arc because I let it lapse, and so I had to wait till it was published and came out. Whatever. I read Arca, a graphic novel sci-fi story of the survivors of Earth on this ship. There are citizens as kind of the first class people, and then a bunch of children who are basically their chore slaves, which is a setup that I don't know if I can directly name that I've seen before, but feels very familiar. So basically, when these kids turn 18, they graduate and they are not allowed to interact with any of the other kids anymore. One of the gals who's about to graduate realizes that this is kind of weird and starts to investigate. And things go on from there. And it's got a very cool art style, it's very engaging to look at, and the story was very fast paced, and you just kind of I read through this in an afternoon, very, very quickly, less than an afternoon. But it's just not a lot there, and I kind of saw all of the major twists and plot points coming. So I think I gave this another 3 stars. I mean, I would recommend this if you're just looking for something fun to pop through in an afternoon, but again, very middle of the road. The next book I read was The Princess Stakes. I read this for the Shelf This book club hosted by Is Bailey Reading. This pick was from Rylan, and I am spacing on her channel name, but I will have it down below. Is it Reading with Rylan? I think her name is in... whatever. Her channel name will be listed down below. Go follow her. She's great. This book, on the other hand, was another very middle-of-the-road book for me. And I don't know if it's just because, I have not been in my romance era this year. This was the first romance I read all this year. I read a pretty significant amount of romance last year, and just this year has just not been my gig, not been my game. So I don't know if it was that. I mean, a couple other people in the book club felt this was very kind of meh for a historical romance. It has a really great premise, and I think the author just needed to kind of work the premise a little bit more. We start off in India with this Indian princess. She wakes up one night in the middle of the night to find her dad dead, and she believes that she is next and that her cousin is trying to usurp the throne from her father. So she takes off in the middle of the night with some of her servants. They get on a ship, the first ship they can find, going to England. Her mother was English, so she's going to try to go back to England and live there under the guise of her mother's maiden name. And wouldn't you know it, the ship they happen to get on is captained by one of her old flames from her childhood. So it's kind of a second chance romance, a sprinkle of enemies to lovers, but mostly like they were enemies because of a misinformation thing, which isn't always my favorite. Like, a lot of their animosity towards each other could have been solved and was solved in like one conversation, which is always like kind of frustrating, and which is why enemies to lovers is always a difficult take for me. And I think this book starts off really, really strong with that premise, but then just kind of doesn't do as much with it as I would have hoped it would. Especially even like the fish out of water stuff with her having grown up in India and now having to deal with kind of the English high society. I just thought we'd get more than we did, and it was fine. I really actually liked the spice in this a lot. I thought it was super duper well written, and I will probably check out this author again when I'm looking for a spicy romance, because most of the time when I'm reading like spicy scenes, I just kind of have to like eject my brain and just not pay attention to word choice and just enjoy the spicy scene. But this one, I actually really enjoyed the way they were written. I could be fully engaged in the words and word choice and still like enjoy the spiciness. So I definitely like that, but I think I would rather try this author in a different title. The next book I listened to was Deep as the Sky, Red as the Sea. I also listened to this for the Silly Goose Book Club. I'm trying to get ahead on book clubs instead of constantly falling behind. And this, I will be interested to see what the rest of the book club thinks, but I did not really enjoy it. And I know that Ruby from Ruby Red recently tried to listen to this, or not listen, tried to read this for a NetGalley something. Well, I don't know if it was a NetGalley vlog. She was talking about NetGalley things. She had an arc of this and was struggling with it. And I can't DNF books because my brain is broken, so I finished it and let her know that I don't think this is exactly worth finishing if your brain is not broken and allows you to DNF. The pacing of this was super strange. I felt like we were jerking around from event to event really quickly, and I just never really felt settled in the story or in the narrative. It's kind of a historical fiction based on the life of a Chinese woman pirate. I can't remember names and things, but I'm pretty sure it's based on a real historical figure and her life. But it just wasn't it for me. And it was like kind of fun, but the pacing was just so off for me. I never really got to care about the characters in the way I thought I would. But again, I will be very interested to see what the rest of the book club thinks, and if maybe I'm just bad at reading. So I ended up giving this 2 out of 5 stars. I am open to trying to reread this physically, but I know Ruby was reading it physically and also struggled, so I don't know. I don't know what to do about this. I'm willing to be wrong about this book, is what I'm saying. And then finally, the last book I read in July, squeaked in just under the wire, was Winter's Orbit. Again, I feel like I am the last person to read this, but I really enjoyed it. I don't think my positive review needs to be, heaped upon the pile of the rest of the positive reviews. This wasn't quite a 5-star for me. I found the characters a little frustrating. I'm just at this point in my life where, like, if you're trying to be in a real adult relationship and you can't just have an open, honest conversation about your feelings, and you can't trust your partner about their feelings, it's just a little frustrating to me. And both of these characters were just so insecure about where they were at in this relationship. And again, it would just take like just some open, honest communication. And like, I could see where this book was coming from. One of the main characters had kind of gone through some trauma, was definitely like closed off. The other one is just kind of a knucklehead, but at the same time, it's just not a dynamic I really enjoy reading and engaging in. But the rest of this book was so good. I will have a reading vlog where I go through this book at some point. It is not out yet. I don't know when it's coming out, but it will come out. And just something I constantly hit on throughout it is the world building is impeccable. The politicking is incredible. I don't want to spoil too much of that reading vlog for you, but like, so many aspects of this book are so great. I just don't enjoy that character dynamic, so I had to knock a star off. So that was my July. We are now in August. I have so many good things coming up in August. It is my birthday month. Tides of Fire is coming out. I'm going to China for a business trip. Like, Leo season is really just looking up for me. We're killing it. We're living life. We're being a lion in this great Leo season. So happy birthday month to me and happy reading to y'all. Thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.